Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this podcast called Game Changer. This is the long version. It's the second episode in the series, and today I have with me Debra Blackman, who's the CEO of Viessentially Ltd, and she's going to tell us all about being a game changer. She's got extensive experience dealing with very high-profile individuals in the finance sort of sector and just business in general. She has her own business, which she'll tell us all about, and what she's here to do today is to give you good insight into what it is to be a game changer on a personal level and a business level. She's got lots of life experience that will be of great value to you. So, Debra, thank you for joining and welcome to the show. The floor is yours. Debra, what I'd like you to do is tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about your business, your journey from conception of your business to where you are today, the challenges you've overcome, and just what you are aspiring to in the next 5 to 10 years. So I'll hand over to you, Debra. The floor is all yours.
Wonderful, Mark. Thank you so much. And the business that I have is called Viessentially Ltd. And we do four things very well. We are business support outsourcing business, have offshore teams, and we help busy business owners predominantly, although we do help executives as well, to buy back their time. Time is one of the most precious commodities apart from one's health. And hopefully when we do have a bit more time, we can actually practice a little more self-care and healthy lifestyle as well. So we do that via providing people with email, email issues, anything that actually happens with regards to booking diaries, all that sort of stuff. And then we also do content creation, LinkedIn lead generation and management. And then just recently, we're doing podcast production and management, and also helping people to train to have a voice that they can rise above their competitors and have a podcast for publicity and profit. Now, what I did when I wanted to set this business up, it happened more by the fact that COVID had made the business that I was in previously pretty much impossible to do. All of the clients, because I was actually consulting to a number of clients on their process administration, etc. In international operational management consultancy, of which I was privileged to be in that sector, everybody travels. Everybody jumps on an aircraft as if you jump on a taxi or a train, and therefore they couldn't travel. So within a week, my business was in no way, shape or form fit to actually carry on in the way that it was. Huge challenge for me. And I would like to say that I just sailed through that, but I didn't. It was very, very stressful. And that had the onset of my nervous breakthrough. My nervous breakthrough because it actually changed the game-changing way of which I do business. When I set the business up, I had the pleasure and the privilege of working with some very high-powered businesses before. One of them was a big major bank in London and throughout
Sorry, Debra. Sorry, Debra, I lost you for a second there. So what I'll do is I'll edit it all out after, when we finish this. But what I need you to do is just go back to the point where, you had this problem with COVID coming on, how it affected your business and how your nervous breakthrough, and then we can carry on from there.
Okay. So I was conducting business that needed my clients to travel extensively, jumping on aircraft and traveling the world as if you would be jumping on in a taxi or on a train. And therefore, with COVID, that absolutely annihilated my business. Within a week, I had no clients because, of course, they couldn't travel. So what happened was I needed to rethink the whole way in which I was doing business. And I'd like to say that was an easy process, but it led to my nervous breakthrough because it was so stressful that, to be fair, after all of those years in a high pressure environment, my body just couldn't take any more. So I was forced to look at things another way. And that's why it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it actually allowed me to recalibrate, to look at my whole holistic lifestyle from the foundations upward and rebuild in a way that I knew was going to be positive and game changing from the perspective of my life after that. So what I did is I was able to do a lot of inner work. And what I would say to people in business, at whatever level you are, the more work that we can do on ourselves as personal development, the more that can translate into our business world and be the success that we know that we can sustain. One of the things was authenticity, because at some point in my career, I had forgotten, I had lost who intrinsically I was. I'd found that I'd put the ladder up there, I'd climbed the ladder, but it was against the wrong wall. It wasn't suiting me, it wasn't suiting my values, it wasn't suiting what I wanted to do as an individual. So once I realized that, the shame, the guilt, the sense of failure was enormous. And what I would say to anybody who is going through a change, expect to feel these feelings, expect to feel pretty horrible for a time, because it's our natural way of creating the energy and the movement from which then we can change. I have done financial trading in the past. And when you have a move in trend, so you can have an upwards and a downwards trend in trading, what we might often find is that there then is a consolidation period. You get the fluctuations going up and down in the market, and then you start to get a narrowing, a consolidation of the price action. Now, if we think of that in terms of ourselves, where we've been on a trajectory for a relatively long period of time, i.e. a trend, to change direction means that we have to then consolidate so that we can build up energy to push us through into the next element of what we're going to do. And that part is usually pretty uncomfortable, because we're sitting with the whole fact of, why do you want to change? What is it behind it that's driving this? And if we've realized that we have been doing things that are not congruent to the values and the people that we are, it's going to highlight quite a bit that we perceive as to be wrong with us.
So,
And
Deborah,
in fact, this isn't wrong, it's just a different.
Sorry, just on that one, in terms of congruence, that's a really key point. How can people discover what is congruent to their values?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening and joining this podcast. My name is Mark Sauls from OpsDel3000, and I have produced a course that will change your leadership journey and take you towards success in a much more holistic way. My course gives you practical applications of the different leadership principles and also gives you an experience of journaling your journey so that you can reflect upon it and make adjustments as you go along. There are many millions of leadership courses out there. Mine is based on the successes of very successful leaders and also the hardships that they came across. It also documents my own leadership experience, my journey from the shop floor into a senior leadership position, the mistakes I made, the learnings that I took from those mistakes, and the superpowers that I developed from them. I say superpowers because they're really simple, but they are absolutely life-changing in terms of your leadership journey. So I do encourage you to take the course, complete it, and get your certification at the end of it. Now, I'm also the author of 2 books, So Many Ways to Get What You Want and The Traits of Successful Leaders. These 2 books not only give you the tools for becoming a successful leader, but they also go into great depth in terms of influence and persuasion, which is a much overlooked tool in the leadership realm. Now, thank you for listening. Please do take the opportunity to read the books and do the course. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Well, this for me now is becoming much, much more easy than it used to be. When we strip things back, and I always think it's good to take an element of every day just to sit down and go inside ourselves and say, what were we grateful for during the course of that day? What happened that lifted our hearts and our spirits to a point where we thought that we were working in, and I'll use the word, a flow state.
Yeah.
Because often what we find is that we're in fight or flight mode quite often throughout our day, and we get used to that feeling. In fact, it can give us quite a buzz, but it's not necessarily, and I use the word again, congruent to our inner value. And what we need to do is just be aware of when we're getting into that heightened state. We could feel butterflies in our stomach. We can feel our chests tightening. We can feel that adrenaline rush. Now, this is all to do with running away from something. This is all to do with defending something right from our primeval pasts. So that when we look at that, that is almost like a trauma bond. We get drawn to the drama. And the drama isn't necessarily where we sit in a comfortable, peaceful, joyous state. In fact, it's often the diametrically opposed opposite. And if we're constantly in that state, which I was, there's no room for the body to breathe. There's no room for the body to grow and expand because it becomes extraordinarily rigid. So what I started to do was take 10 minutes out of every day thinking, what's uplifting me? What's giving me that sense of joy and purpose and peace? And then compare that feeling to what I was feeling, say, 10 minutes before. And usually it didn't marry. It was in conflict. And so what I was able to do through the nervous breakthrough is I had gone through such a period of dis-ease, of disharmony, that when I actually sat down and I looked, I felt guilty for not realizing it sooner. I felt shame because I felt that I'd failed. I'm using the word felt because a reality that we perceive as a feeling is not necessarily our truth. And so when I looked at that and thought I was the worthless human being that I'd kind of got in my brain, I knew that that wasn't a great place to base the rest of my life from. So how could I create that value to be something that I felt was worthy of who I knew I could be and who I knew I could become and who I had lost? I was an abuse and trauma survivor early on, so I didn't even have a point of reference within my childhood to know when I felt strong and empowered. But often people will be able to draw upon something where maybe it was school days, a holiday, and within a family where they felt love and they felt at ease. And it's going back, if we liken that to the inner child. Because in that inner child is an essence of ourselves, whereas adults, we've kind of got disconnected from it. And without going into too much esoteric kind of spiritual stuff, because that doesn't necessarily resonate with everybody. But once we get familiar with who we are and what makes us tick, and once we are able to think, right, I just need to let go and trust that I'm a pretty awesome individual and I'm going to be making the decisions that are right for me, not just right for right now, but right for the future me. And that's a very key point when we build our businesses.
So what makes you tick, Debra?
It's serving others. Absolutely 100% serving others. But it's also the paradigm there is that I intrinsically know, and this isn't arrogance, this isn't ego, that I am an amazing human being. I have the power and the love within myself for myself that then I can give to others without thinking, aren't I marvelous and what have you? And I smile because people might think, God, that's an arrogant thing to say. But it is so not. It is so from a place of how can I serve? And the great thing with that is it completely shifted my view from my client's perspective how could I serve them? Not what can I get from my clients in terms of usually money, but what can I give to my clients to help them to become abundant? What is the value that I can make sure that my clients are receiving? Everything is value led for me now.
Yeah.
And one thing is not chasing the money. Money is an energy like everything else. And if it knows that it can flow through, and I use this word really importantly, it has to flow through. So you get it and you give it out. You get it and you give it out. You keep enough to make sure that you are secure, stable, that you're building on the firm foundations of where that energy is. So you're not just giving it all away, but you're not keeping it all either. And that's absolutely where I was going wrong. I had scarcity mindset all the way through me. And I wondered why I had blocks with money.
That's a key factor there, Deborah. Sorry for interrupting you, but you hitting a few nails on the head here, and I just want to get more value out of that. In terms of allowing, money being an energy and allowing it to flow and having a scarcity mindset, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 1972, and excuse me, there's, it depends on what part of the world you come from, what family upbringing you had. Sometimes family pass on their thinking genetically to people, and if it's not genetic, then they pass it on in terms of the way the upbringing of their kids. And sometimes it's all with the best intentions, but the majority of people can be argued to have a mindset of scarcity, where because of that mindset of scarcity, we resonate with scarcity and attract it unintentionally. And that's in conflict with any kind of business ideas we might have, or any thinking of abundance. How did you overcome that thinking, that scarcity mindset? And what sort of steps would you recommend to people to help them on their journey from scarcity to abundance?
Good question. And I wouldn't say I'm there yet. It's like all these things, if I suddenly got the magic formula, wow, amazing. No, this is all a learning and a work in progress. So, and just as I learn it, another level appears, and it's just like, oh, okay, so I've got to think of it on that term. So as a work in progress, there is abundance for all. And it's letting go and trusting that we live in a hugely abundant world, that it is there for me. I am deserving. I have everything that I need right now. I am safe now. I have everything now. And unless we're about to have the guillotine come down and that's it, we all have that right now, in the present moment. And this is key. In the present moment, you, me, and a whole wealth of millions of people, we're okay right now. We have enough oxygen. We have enough of everything to be in the now. And if we project forward and if we project back, and time isn't linear, it's all happening around at the same time, but in our constructs of where we perceive time to be, we project into the future with fear and we look back with regret. Now, if we can stop that and celebrate the moment that we're in, that mindset then goes into the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And all of a sudden, those cumulative moments make a different reality.
Just one more thing,
because they got to, because that's the law of.
You mentioned time is not linear. Now that's going to be a mind bender for a lot of people, and it's been a mind bender for me for a long time, because throughout my life in production and engineering and business, everything has a timeline. This must happen at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock on this day and this week and that month. So, once you've missed 8 o'clock today, you are never going to get 8 o'clock today back again. So, from that point of view, from a purely standard human being, the way we've been brought up, time is linear. But we do know that if you look at things from a quantum physics point of view, which is another mind bender on its own, that time isn't linear, and time and space is a whole nother universe of discovery there. What would you say to anyone that's having that problem, understanding that time is not linear, what the advantages are, and what can they do with that knowledge?
Well, we live in a multi-dimensional reality. And if we look at quantum physics, this is real stuff here. It's not, it's not some crazy woman talking to people on this podcast. It's actually a physics-based thing. And physics catches up with spirituality because, we find out things that bring us closer to like the woohoo suggestions. But ultimately, if we think about it, we can live in the past. We can make that time frame our reality. There are some people that live in their glory days from when they were at school winning all the sports prizes, or, at the time when they felt that they were in the peak of their life, and they keep on looking past, and that's where they live from. And we all know people like that. We all know people who live in the future and are always constantly worried about what might happen next. And that was what I was. I was living in the future. That was a future reality. So let's forget the actual increments of time as we move on, that we can't get 8 a.m. again in that notion. Let's not think of time in that gradation in that way. Let's look at time in the sense of the fact that we can bring about everything. So we can bring about in a nanosecond our thought process from when we were 5 years old to the thought process in the future, where we could be projecting, let's say we're looking at our pension scheme, will it provide for us when we're 85? And we can be thinking in those terms, in that way, in that future reality. And it's all happening in our heads at the same time. Now, that's what I mean about time. It can all come under one reality. Because if we live with the intention of what we want in the future, but we want it now, what we think about, we bring about. And so what I would say to anybody, we don't even need to visualize it, because the human brain can only visualize a tiny thing that's possible for us. But we can think in the terms of abundance. If we're thinking about a lifestyle, a feeling, a person that we know is out there, but not from a basis of lack. And this is what we think about, we bring about. If you're coming it from a perspective of lack, that's what the universe will give us. It will give us more lack. If we're thinking in the terms and we're actually living our lives as we are, and it's not faking it till you make it, absolutely not. It's being authentic in our truth, that we are the person right now that is the leader of a Fortune 500 company. We are that person who has won a Pulitzer Prize. We are that person. Now, what will happen is all the cells will come together, and it will help us align with that state. So the future state is now. This is the only place where we can create from. And we are miracle creators every single nanosecond of every single day. We don't think about breathing, but we're breathing. That's a miracle in itself. We don't think about half the things that we don't think about a heart beating. It beats by itself. Minor miracle in itself, or big miracle. So if we bring about those thought processes from a place of joy, gratitude, and I use that word, gratitude, be thankful for what we have. Even if we perceive that it's not what we want, it's what is around for us to have at this moment so we can learn from it. We must also perceive that there is no wrong and there is no right. And people are going to go, what? Absolutely truthful. It's what we put onto it for our perception that makes it wrong or right. You probably want to ask another question, but I'm not being overly adversarial here when I say one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. We're not wrong. We're not right. We are what we are. And it's what we attach to that in this moment that brings about our reality. So if we're not where we want to be, we've got to scrap that. We are exactly where we should be because we are where we are, if that makes sense.
So in terms of the avalanche of thoughts we have every day, it's going to be academic. Some experts will say 65,000, some will say 75,000, but whatever it is, it's a hell of a lot of thoughts that go through our mind every single day. And those thoughts are polarizing us towards, a future. They are attracting things into our lives. And again, there's going to be people who watch this and think this is a whole lot of hippie mumbo jumbo stuff. This is not anything practical. It's not anything concrete. And this is coming from a guy who's an engineer. I mean, engineers are supposed to be practical people. Where's all this coming from? Now, I'm going to ask you this question in terms of thoughts and the fact that they happen automatically. We can't stop them, as far as I know, anyway. How do we move from this state of thinking in an abundant way, right, and attracting abundance into our lives when we have this barrage of negativity and scarcity that just pops into our minds throughout the day, every day? And we have to consciously realize that this is happening and consciously move ourselves into thoughts of abundance against the resistance and momentum of scarcity and negativity. There's people out there today that are having all kinds of different struggles. They've watched a million podcasts. They've watched Dr. Joe Dispenza. They've watched Sadhguru. They've watched all kinds of different people trying to find a way to become abundant. What I know there's no magic wand for this. I'm just keen to know what kind of methods have you applied that people can go out and try today?
Well, in one term, we can absolutely control the thoughts that we have. But what we can absolutely 100% get right is not attaching an emotion to those thoughts. Because an emotion brings about a feeling, and then that transmits to the brain. And if we're actually thinking of our thoughts come from, not from our heads, they come from our stomachs. They come from our gut. That's where we're devising our thoughts from. People have kind of got it a bit misplaced, that the mind should be our servant and the mind is our master. And we've got to get away from that if we want to liberate ourselves and be free of these perpetual thoughts. And once we realize them, it's like anything. They don't have to be negative. In fact, the more you practice, because it's practice, like anything. Once you practice the art of shifting those thoughts into thoughts which are going to serve us, thoughts, and I'm not saying that that's not negative, because negative thoughts can push us into action. Brilliant, fantastic. Let's not discount those emotions that make us agitated for change. Brilliant. But acknowledge what they are without attaching an emotion to them. So we see something out in the street and somebody, for whatever reasons, there's a mugger and they get a woman's handbag and they snatch it and off they go. Well, a few years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Oh my goodness, the whole neighborhood is just, ah. And I get into this scale of pessimism and panic and anxiety. And I would think that would be caring. If that happened today, I would immediately feel, because I know something similar has just happened to me recently, and that's why I'm thinking about it. I'm sending love to the perpetrator. I'm sending love because you know what that allows me to do? It allows me to think clearly. It allows me to think, right, what can I be the most opportune in this situation? So when anything comes like that, it's clarity. Not attaching a negative emotion, but giving that love gives you the clarity to be able to distill that and choose which parts of it you wish to attach certain elements to. And so what I would say is be an observer of your thoughts rather than being led as a protagonist and a player of your thoughts.
That's a powerful thing. It's one of the principles of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Feelings are not facts, for one, and thoughts are there to be observed. So if it's a negative thought, you get that negative thought on a train and watch it leave the station, and don't entertain it for too long. So, there's various different aspects to it. So thank you for touching on that, Deborah, and going into that sort of detail. Now, a slight or very big change in direction. We're still on the topic of being a game changer and game changing. And nothing more than AI, artificial intelligence, has been more of a game changer in the last year or so. The sort of changes in the world that have gone on, the medical improvements, the advancements in technology, and how that has, moved society forward, has been tremendous. Now, there are risks and worries about AI and what it's ultimately going to become. But what I want to do is ask you, what's your perception on AI in terms of being a game changer?
Well, AI is its own species. AI is there to be for us to treat with respect. And it can provide us, like any new technology, it can provide us with abundance and work in collaboration with us to absolutely, go to the next level, and absolutely brilliant. But if we treat it in the wrong way, it can come around and it can give us all sorts of issues. And we have to be very careful here, because AI is deriving itself from everything that is out there that it can glean to be of itself. So we need, as human beings, to ensure that what it's getting its concepts from is coming from a healthy, abundant, peaceful, loving thought process. And so if it's picking up on humanity's jealousy and power struggles and inhumanity, it's going to pick that up. So we have to now up our game, which is a great thing, because if we now up our game, that means that AI is going to, as that resource, as it goes around the globe and goes into all these different ways and facets, it's going to pick up more of that than it is of the negative. And we've only got ourselves to blame if it picks up more of the negative, because one of my key missions to tell everybody and share with you is that every person matters. Every voice counts, because every single person now, especially now, we think, oh, what can I do? I'm nothing. Oh, how wrong we are. We are all miracles, but by the lottery of amazing odds of being a human being, we're all miracles. That's a fact. But ultimately, we have an absolute mission now to create the best out there, so that whatever that AI is picking up is going to serve humanity. Because otherwise, it's not. And we've only got ourselves to blame for it.
Yeah, it's I'm particular, coming from a engineering background, a lot of digital in my background as well. It's a marvel of engineering, AI, just like combine harvesters were many years ago, just like spacecraft were many years ago and still are. And they've done good things for humanity purely because they are still completely manufactured and under the control of people. So you would never get a combine harvester suddenly run riot through town on its own, destroying things and creating massive destruction. However, with AI, in terms of its digital capabilities and learning capabilities, all kinds of things could happen there. So while we focus on all the positive aspects of it, there is an element of control, some people might argue, that needs to be exercised over this. The question is, who in your opinion, it can be a person, it can be a group of people. For example, we have the United Nations that does certain work all over the world, and they are a respected body, for doing various different things. What can we do in terms of AI so that it doesn't become a weapon that we create for ourselves that will be used against us?
Well, we are our own worst enemy, and we always have been. I mean, to be honest with you, with nuclear power, we can destroy the planet. So I wouldn't get too, what's it going to do to us? What is it going to do? What is it going to do? It's going to tell us falsehoods. Well, we get told falsehoods every day. It's going to give us, it's going to tell us when we can have things and when we can't. It's going to shut things off, and it's going to, well, we have that already. So rather than look and project into the future a fear-based scenario, which is exactly what I was saying at the beginning, all we have is the here and now. And we can only be, and I know this is going to sound trite and people can like it or not, but I stand in my truth with this. If we have the responsibility of being constantly evolving to be the better version that we are, but also celebrating ourselves in every form that we are at the moment, but striving to be better. Not that we don't keep an eye out for this, but there's so much that we can't control already out there.
Yeah.
So AI, and I'm not denigrating anybody. I'm not telling things that, there can be a shit, but let's not go into a future that we don't know.
Yeah.
All we know is what we have here and now. And if we can make that the best possible version of everything, and this is why I say we all matter, we all count, because don't forget, all of our consciousness together as a conscious collective, and make absolutely no doubt whatsoever that we are all interconnected through our genetics, through everything. And this isn't woohoo, this is physics. We are all connected. Everything in this world is connected. AI is just another thing that's connected now. We have the responsibility to take ourselves seriously, but also have fun and say, this is the life journey. AI is AI. A dictator is a dictator. A politician is a politician. A leader is a leader. We have to take responsibility for ourselves.
It's that
because these are the only
it's that aspect of
responsibility of.
Yeah, it's that aspect of being when people looked at a molecule under the microscope and looked at an atom, it was discovered a long time ago that 99% of that, if not 99.9% of that, is space, and the rest of it is matter. So as people, most of us are space, and what we can see as a
Space
visible
and water.
Yeah. what we can see is that tiny percentage that makes up matter, and the rest of it is energy in terms of space, which ties in very nicely with your, the statement you made about being interconnected as people, and that it actually is physics, and it's not some kind of crazy stuff that people sometimes put it in the light of. So as we are all interconnected, we have that. What did you call it? Global consciousness. Did you call it that?
Yeah, well, it's a human consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, the world, our own wonderful Earth, has its own consciousness, and the universe has its own consciousness. But as a human being consciousness, we tap into that the whole time. There is stuff called intuition, and we've had it for years. It's just we've kind of gone away from it, and now things are actually kind of coming back more into that sphere, because people, you've got the phrase, "Oh, my gut told me it didn't feel right." Yeah, trust your gut, because that's what's going to usually give you what the score is.
Yeah.
You probably have another question, but it's that interconnectedness that we need to make sure, just like AI is connected and we're looking at it as an observer, but let's look at an observer as us as a human race.
Yeah.
The more acts that we perpetrate on other people that are negative, the more we're hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree with that. The better acts that we do that are positive, we're all benefiting ourselves as a human race.
Absolutely.
That's just a very simplistic level of looking at it. It goes into things in much more detail. But, you know, the more good we can do, the more people will benefit because we're all part of the one.
So we're coming to the end of this podcast, Debra, and I've watched a few of your other podcasts and got to know a bit about you before we met on your podcast. And you are affectionately known as the Mary Poppins of the office. So tell us about that.
Well, I came across Mary Poppins in the sense that a character who comes in just when she's needed and works her magic in a way that gets the family, the Banks family, together and working together. So if we think about that from a business perspective, that's what we do when we go into a business, as far as helping with all of their business support elements and outsourcing to us. We come in, we unravel the mess, we get things tidy for people. And then when they don't need us anymore, we go off and we help others. And they don't really realize what it is that we did, but it feels much better. And it's much, it actually is in reality much better than what it was when it started. So that's why I like Mary Poppins, because we are no nonsense. We are heart-centered business. We care for everybody. We are love, and we enjoy working and supporting others. The one thing that we don't do is we don't start to mollycoddle. We don't start to meddle and fix people. But what we help is a scenario where we come in and we make that difference, and we help busy business owners to buy back their time, to increase their awareness on social media, and to help them get more business in through podcasting as a funnel to be used from a sales perspective, which is highly profitable. That's what we do.
And, contact-wise, how do people get in touch with you, Debra?
Yeah, so I've got my email address. It's for my initials. That's DB for Debra Blackman. And then it's at Viessentially. That's V for Victor, IE, S for Sierra, ENTIALLY.com. There's also a website, viessentially.com as well. And we have a business phone, but I'm sure that's all going to be on the show notes as well. So yeah, it'd be lovely to talk to anybody. Anything I've said today, I've probably said a few things that people go, really? But yeah, keep an open mind, because it's absolutely beautiful when you do.
It's one of the things that I've made a conscious effort to do in the last 5 or 6 years, and that's to understand what thoughts are really mine and what thoughts are the thoughts of my parents, grandparents, respected people I know. What concepts and ideas and methodologies come from my upbringing that are no longer applicable today? What kind of beliefs do no longer serve me well? And what do I need to do about them? So, on that journey, I've discovered many different things that are all about being open-minded. And apart from being open-minded, just understanding that things are changeable and adaptability is key, as well as just understanding that we are not victims of circumstance, but we are right where we need to be at that time. And it's whatever energy exists within us. And at that point in time, we have a choice. We have a choice to either use that energy to transform and move on in a progressive way, or we can use that energy to be regressive. And it is a choice. We make that choice about how we feel. It's something that we have to take responsibility for. So, and in doing that, we empower ourselves. And in empowering ourselves, we become game changers. And becoming a game changer in your own life means you can be a game changer for someone else if they need your help. So you have given us a very insightful talk today, Debra. You've touched on absolutely everything that anyone could probably have a question about. What can they do to move themselves forward? Are they stuck? Is there something they need to change? What do they need to accept? and where do they want to go? What's the future like? What's the past like? Where are they right now? So you've given us a great value to the audience today, Debra. So thank you very much for coming on today and giving us this talk. And I look forward to seeing you in many other podcasts. I've got several other podcasts that will be coming up, and I'm pretty sure I'll be in contact with you to join me on those. So thank you, Debra, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you in the next one.